It was the 15th of January 2023, and a rideshare driver made his way through a dark, silent road. Suddenly he hit something hard. It came out of nowhere and appeared human. He returns to check what he had hit, and finds a young lady contorted on the pavement, barely breathing. He immediately calls 911. Paramedics transported her to the hospital, where she would later be pronounced dead. But this tragic accident soon takes a dark turn. What was she doing out in the middle of nowhere? How was her blood alcohol level almost 4 times the legal limit? And who were the 4 young men who took her away from the club, had their way with her, and abandoned her in the middle of a lonely road, disoriented and fighting for her life? A night of depravity and sexual assault leads to an unplanned death. This is the tragic story of Madison Brooks and her final 6 hours alive. A young, promising girl whose life was cut short by individuals whose sinister intentions outweighed human empathy. This case contains graphic content that may be disturbing. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Creepy True Cases, the home of true crime. Take a second to subscribe, it really helps the channel. Today we are taking a look at a terrifying tragedy that befell a community, an evil that defies logic, and a family that seeks justice. Madison Kennedy Brooks was born into the family of John Brooks and Ashley Boward in Covington, Louisiana. She had 3 siblings, Aiden, Brady, and Kaylin. She attended a private Catholic school, St. Scholastic Academy, where she also cheered on the fields as a vibrant member of the cheerleading squad. She was a devout Christian and volunteered for school and community development. By the end of 2021, she got admission into the school of her dreams, Louisiana State University, LSU. She majored in communications, and in no time, she was accepted into the esteemed Manship School of Mass Communication at LSU. To balance her university experience, she also joined Alpha Phi sorority, where she found a new family of sisters. She was living her best life and had so many accomplishments ahead of her. That was until that fateful day. On Saturday, the 14th of January 2023, Madison decided to spend some time partying out with friends and enjoying the gift of youth. What she didn't know was that this night was going to be her last. At around 10 p.m. that night, she makes her way into a bar around campus called Reggie's. It was a night like any other, except that this time, there were 4 men who had taken notice of the 19-year-old sophomore. Kyvon DeAndre Washington, 18 years, Desmond Carter, 17, Kason Carver, 18, Everett Lee, 28, and the oldest of the men. Everett was Washington's uncle. Madison was meeting these men for the first time. She hadn't met with any of them before. As the night continued, surveillance cameras picked up what became clues for investigators later. 17-year-old Desmond Carter was seen dancing with and hugging Madison. At around 1 a.m., Madison is seen stumbling around, falling, and unable to keep her balance. She appeared to have had a lot more alcohol than she could handle. She was slurring her words, rolling her eyes, and unable to move a few steps unaided. All the signs of a person who was heavily intoxicated. The 4 men watched keenly, waiting for the right time. At around 2 a.m., Reggie's begin to close for the night, and people start to exit. Cameras show Madison leaving the bar, and was closely followed by the 4 men. She was too intoxicated to know where she was going, but it appeared like she was trying to get away from them, rather than leaving with them. The men would later claim that they left the bar together, and she asked them for a ride. Either way, she found herself inside Kason Carver's vehicle, in the passenger seat, between Kyvon and Desmond. The car pulls away and disappears into the night. Kason Carver, when questioned, revealed that Madison was incoherent and unbalanced. They all knew she was in no condition to make any decision. However, Kyvon Washington and Desmond Carter pressured her for sex. According to the version presented by the men, she agreed. Kason Carver confessed that he felt uneasy with the whole activity, but he did nothing to stop his friends. According to another report, Everett had stepped out of the vehicle while the essay was ongoing. He also did nothing to stop his nephew and his friend. Here's where things get even more concerning. The defense attorney revealed that one of the men actually recorded the incident on video. Madison was telling the men that she wanted to call an Uber to get home on her own. This was after the assault. They dropped her off at around 2:50 a.m., near the Pelican Lake subdivision, a place that she was unfamiliar with. Madison, alone, lost in the dark and completely disoriented, struggles to find the path, with a blood alcohol level that was dangerously high. In Louisiana, the legal limit for blood alcohol was 0.08%. Hers was 4 times that amount. Madison wanders until she finds herself standing in the middle of a dark road, devoid of streetlights, on Burbank Drive. It is 3 a.m. and she's yet to find a ride. Unfortunately, a ride finds her, but not in the way she expected. A rideshare driver came across a bend on the road while heading home. His headlights were on, he wasn't intoxicated. Out of nowhere, Madison showed up in the middle of the road. There was no time to stop. In a flash, he hits Madison. He immediately calls 911 and she is rushed to the hospital. Madison's family is informed of the accident, and they quickly show up at the hospital. However, she had sustained fatal injuries from her fall, and in a few hours she was pronounced dead. Medical officers revealed that the cause of death was multiple traumatic injuries sustained from a collision with a vehicle. However, the police needed more information. Where was she coming from that night, and what had happened to her prior to the accident? Upon investigation, detectives found the surveillance footage of where Madison had come from that evening. What they discovered at Reggie's changed everything. Madison was followed by 4 strangers and ended up getting in their vehicle. Her toxicology reports also show dangerously high levels of alcohol intoxication as well as THC, a compound contained in marijuana. But that wasn't all. Madison had marks on her body that indicated that she may have been essayed. The investigators tracked the license plate of the Caisson's car and eventually found all 4 men. By the 23rd of January 2023, all 4 men had already been arrested and were facing criminal charges. Caisson Carver was a lot more cooperative than others, admitting that Madison was unstable, couldn't speak clearly, and that Kyvon Washington and Desmond Carver did ask her for sex, which she admitted to. The bone of contention was that she may have been too drunk to consent to sex. Caisson also admitted to hating what happened and that it made him feel uncomfortable. Everett declined to answer many of the questions. His nephew Kyvon Washington, on the other hand, denied having sexual relations with Madison, and when asked if he was open to providing a DNA sample, he stopped the interview, asking for an attorney. Desmond Carter's statement could not be used because he was 17 years old at the time of arrest and still a juvenile. After the statements and medical findings were analyzed, Kyvon Washington and Desmond Carter were charged with third-degree rape, while Everett and Carver were charged with principal to third-degree rape. This meant that they were present during the act, but neither participated nor objected. A date was set for the trial while the 3 adults made bond. Kyvon Washington charged $150,000, Everett Lee $75,000 and Caisson Carver $50,000. Everett and Caisson posted bail and went home to await trial, but Washington was unable to meet the requirements and remained in custody. Desmond Carter, who was still a juvenile, was held at the Juvenile Detention Center. While the defense prepared their case for the trial, a video emerges that shatters everything. The defense thought that the video provided clear evidence that the men were innocent and in fact, did not essay Madison. They insisted that the boys were innocent, but when the video was presented in court, it did the complete opposite. It showed a vulnerable 19-year-old woman, clearly intoxicated, and the men making fun of her. After analyzing the video and surveillance tapes, Judge Myers finally made a decision that shocked the defense. On the 22nd of February 2023, the jury raised Desmond Carter's charges to first-degree rape. He was to be tried as an adult, which meant that there was a huge possibility that he could get life in prison without parole. As for Kyvon, his case got a lot more complicated. Another girl came forward with a rape allegation against him, a case that occurred in Louisiana, way back in May 2020. She claimed she reported the case to the police in 2021, but Kyvon was not charged. This time, Kyvon is tried on that case and charged with first-degree rape. But it didn't end there. Sometime in February 2023, a second female victim came forward. The final nail to the coffin was a third alleged rape victim who claimed to have been assaulted in October 2022. The third victim had earlier reported the case to the police on January 25, 2023, just 24 hours after Washington was arrested for Madison's crime. Kyvon now has to face 3 more SA cases besides the Madison case. While this was ongoing, the defense tried to open an inquiry into Madison's prior sexual history, claiming that she had sustained the marks on her body from a previous consensual rough sex and not from an encounter with Kyvon and Desmond. They argued that the lack of DNA evidence further proved the innocence of the 2 men. However, this idea was immediately shut down by the prosecutors, because according to the Louisiana state law, a victim's sexual history is generally inadmissible in trials pertaining to rape, as it was an unjust attempt to blame the victim. The Louisiana Supreme Court had the final say, and it stood in favor of the prosecutors. 2 years after Madison's death, Kason Carver took a plea deal and was scheduled for trial on the 1st of December 2025. He is set for trial on the charges of first-degree rape, third-degree rape, and voyeurism. However, as of January 2026, the trial remains on hold for several reasons, such as the recusal of the original judge, Gail Horn-Ray, who was alleged to have an improper relationship with the defense. For Kyvon and Desmond, there are still no trial dates due to complications with Kyvon's case and the numerous appeals made by Desmond's attorney. The trial continues more than 2 years after Madison's death, as prosecutors strive to prove that a rape occurred even without DNA evidence. Her family holds on to her memory, and what she represented as justice is set to be served. Madison should be 23 years old this year. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.